Hello, dear children. Today I will tell you about the migration adventures of storks. My great-great-grandfather told me about it. Let's start if you are ready. In a lush green forest, the spring season had begun to arrive. When spring came, the birds of the forest would wake up joyfully and soar freely in the sky. Flowers were blooming, trees were turning green, and nature was welcoming spring with all its beauty. With the arrival of spring, the storks would leave their nests and flap their wings toward the sky, preparing to migrate to another land. They were all eager for a new adventure. An old stork gathered the young storks around him and began to tell them migration stories. The eyes of the young storks sparkled as they listened to these tales. Some of them were excited, as it would be their first migration. They listened intently to every word from the old stork. The time had come, and the storks started to make their final preparations for migration. Before leaving the nest, they conducted last checks. The experienced ones offered advice and encouragement to the younger ones. Supporting one another, they became ready for migration. Since it would be their last night in this forest, they felt a bit melancholic. When the sun rose, all the storks flapped their wings and set off. They took one last look back at the green forest. The wind was blowing gently, sending rays of sunlight onto the storks' wings. Using the breeze, the storks soared high and glided gracefully in the sky. The green forest was no longer in sight behind them. Their flight was like a dance in the sky. After flying for a while, the clouds in the sky began to change. Storm clouds covered the entire sky. Before long, a storm erupted. As they passed through the storm clouds, the storks shielded their faces with their wings. They stayed close together, supporting each other as they tried to get through this challenging moment. Finally, they succeeded in passing through the storm clouds. The sky brightened again. The sun and white clouds refreshed the stork spirits. The storks arrived in a new region. The young storks couldn't hide their admiration at the sight before them. Filled with the joy of successfully completing their first migration adventure, they began to flap their wings happily. The place they had arrived at was more beautiful than their old forest. Here, there were colorful trees, sparkling blue lakes, squirrels and rabbits playing together, and a host of happy animals. They met their new friends, who took them on a tour of the new forest. After exploring thoroughly, they played games together, sang songs, chatted, enjoyed meals, basked in the sun, and lived an adventure every day. Finally, the day to return home arrived. The storks gathered their things for the journey back. They said goodbye to their friends made here, promising to meet again next season. They completed their preparations and, just as they had arrived, set off on their way home, soaring gracefully. On their way back to their nests, they danced joyfully and embraced one another. Remembering the adventure they had just experienced, they laughed. When they returned home, the old stork was waiting for them. He organized a celebration for the storks that had migrated for the first time. The old stork congratulated them for helping each other in the face of the storm, and they began to eagerly anticipate the next migration.